Big up, friends. This is MMA Jammin with the mighty Kyle Chin. Welcome back. And man, I'm so excited about what we got to talk about. Been super busy, and I'm not going to be putting as many clips on this one just because this week is crazy, but I had to shoot an episode for this week because so much is going on. As usual, we're going to start out with a little jam. Big up to Buju who won festival competition. I am a Jamaican. Big tune, but you don't know. I want loud up my friend Sakina, who was in the competition as well and had a great song. So we don't know. We'll start it out.
50 years strong. We are Jamaica. We have to get along. We are Jamaica. Tell me if I'm wrong. We are Jamaica. Help me sing the song. On August 6, 1962, black, green and gold, red, white and blue. Say bye-bye to the Queen and the Union Jack. Forward ever, never looking back.
Yeah, big up yourself, Sakina. It was an amazing festival run. Bless up. You don't know, you always the on top. Winner your name. Alright, so straight into it, man. Like, this weekend was an amazing weekend for fights. Of course, before I even start on UFC, I have to big up Jason Jackson for his victory in Bellator. You don't know, Jamaicans doing them thing. So Jason had an amazing fight. He really utilized those calf kicks. And it's a rough thing when you're out of competition for a while. And Jordan Mean wasn't, he hadn't fought in a little while. And it's funny because since Jordan Mean would have last fought, the calf kicks have become a staple. And that's not something you can practice very much in training either because it's so debilitating. But, Jason came back into competition and there's nothing quite like, competing. So even when you're in the gym and you're sparring, the kind of intensity that you can put in is not going to equal the intensity of when you're in the cage in front of the big lights doing the thing. So John Mean came in, you saw like a ring rust, you saw that he didn't have the kind of conditioning for, that kind of, intense fight, especially after being out of competition for so long. And Jason just picked him apart, just beautiful striking. Like I say, him land about 5 calf kicks in it. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take that many. And Jordan just couldn't manage, man. Excellent fight for Jason. So, jumping back over to the UFC now, it was an amazing card. It was the Robert Whittaker versus Darren Till card. And thank God my boy Robert came out on top as I expected. But listen, you can't take nothing away from Darren Till. This shows how good Darren Till is, man. I mean, we know how Kelvin Gastelum competed against the current champion Israel Adesanya for the middleweight belt. And to see how, Darren Till beat Kelvin Gastelum and then went in there with Robert, who was the former champ, and really did well for himself, stood his ground. They really had a chess match of a fight. Some people might think it's a little boring, but there was so much technical things happening, so many adjustments that were consistently happening, just because these guys, needed to be in the right position. And, he caught Robert early. He caught Robert early with an elbow that almost put Robert flat out. Well, it dropped him a little. It was a flash knockout. And, Robert recovered quickly enough and was able to stay in the fight. And that's the thing with Robert, man. He's got that champion vibe, that champion spirit, and him naga just done just like that. So that was an excellent fight, in my opinion. I loved it. Then you have Mauricio Shogun Hua versus Lil Nog. And this is the third time they're fighting, and there's a reason we keep seeing them fighting. Even though Shogun had beaten Lil Nog twice before, we keep seeing this fight because it's such an excellent matchup. Shogun is from that shooter box school, that kickboxing, that Muay Thai, and he's going against Lil Nog, who is that BJJ excellence versus and as well as boxing aficionado. You see me? Him and both Nagiro brothers, the twins, excellent boxers, and that's what we saw. We saw Muay Thai versus boxing, and it was a slugfest. I was really happy to see that these guys performed well considering their age. Lil Nog did not look like a 44-year-old in there. His body was in shape. He was moving well. He was striking well. He was defending well. It was an excellent fight. Shogun's face was all marked up by the end of it, but Shogun came out on top, and it went to decision like we needed it to do. It was excellent. I think both men won that night. Lil Nog proved that he's not done. He's not too old for this. It's all good. Fabricio Verdum, Alexander Gustafsson, Jano Star. Wow! Talk about an upset. Talk about the upset. Nobody expected this. All the odds, everything was definitely skewed way over to Gustafsson. Nobody expected that Fabricio would be able to take down Gustafsson. And I was actually thinking that Verdum's last outing against Olenek was almost the best thing that could have happened because everybody underestimated it because of it. But Verdum really didn't prepare well for that fight. He was out of shape. He came in heavy. It didn't look like he did much sparring. He actually said that he didn't do much sparring for that fight. And it showed, man. There was such a huge difference. When Verdum came for this fight, he was in shape. He was looking really good. Good movement, everything. Gustafsson didn't really land a strike. And Verdum was able to use his old man strength and his old man tricks and pull Gustafsson down. And once he's down, he just kept him down there. And they were dry. They were both dry. Once you get somebody down earlier, before the sweat starts to run, it's easier to hold them down because the sweat really does make a big difference. I remember the first time I fought, the first time we went past round one thing that I noticed was the difference when you train in shirts and so on, and when you're rolling without a shirt and you're sweating. It's completely different. There's no friction, so you can't hold the person down. Them can slip out easier. You know what I mean? So the sweat made a huge difference. It was early in the fight. He was able to take him down and then get the armbar. And Verdum is a world champion, world class, and arguably one of the best to ever do it. Arguably, Verdum is the best to ever do it, considering his opponents and who he's beaten. Stipe obviously has the most defenses of the heavyweight title, but Verdum, a former champion, and his run to the championship was amazing. And before his run, he had beaten the great legend Fedor Emelianenko. So anyway, that was an incredible fight. He caught him in the armbar, and I really hope that this doesn't mean... I hope Gustafsson isn't dissuaded and decides to retire again. The fact that he just came out of retirement to do this fight is a big deal, and I'm really hoping that he just brushes this off and keeps going, because I think his potential in the heavyweight division is great. I think now that he's felt the difference in weight and strength for the heavyweight division, I think he's going to make certain what adjustments he needs to make. Maybe more powerlifting, maybe just more strength work. So we'll see how that goes. Carla Esparza looked really, really good. She, got touched up by Marina, but still came out on top with her decision. Just used her wrestling as we thought she would. And like I said, you kind of, it's hard not to give the edge to the wrestler in these situations. Paul Craig, first round submission. Paul Craig is on a run, looking really good. Alex Cowboy Oliveira versus Peter Sabata. As we, I didn't actually give a prediction for this, just because I was so happy to hear that Peter Sabata wanted to represent Jamaica, even though he's not from Jamaica. I think it's cool as hell. So, too bad for Peter Sabata. They went to decision. Oliveira squeezed it out. It was a good fight, but better luck next time. But the talk of the town, man. The talk of the town is Khamzat Chimaev. Yo, this brother on 10 days notice. Now this is unheard of. The man fought twice in 10 days. That don't happen. But you know why he was able to do that? Because he didn't get touched in 2 fights. In 2 fights, he did not get touched. So the first fight, took the guy down, submission. This fight, took the guy down, submission. KO, it just ground and pound. It's incredible. He's Dagestani. Well, I don't even know if he's Dagestani. Him sound just like Khabib. He's definitely Russian. I think he's Russian Serbian. And he's on an absolute tear. He's at 8-0. And the man, literally the fight started, he just went in, grabbed a single to a double, and then just picked up the guy. It wasn't even a double. It was a single, and then grabbed the waist, high crotch, picked up the guy, brought him over to his corner, put him down, had him against the cage, and then took him down. And then just controlled and ground and pound until the fight done. It was incredible. Like, honestly, future champion. Another guy who I saw that I was like, man, this guy got to be a future featherweight champion is this guy, Movsar Evloev. 13-0. The fight with Mike Grundy was incredible. Grundy was going for those takedowns. Evloev showed incredible agility and fight IQ and ground fighting IQ. He was able to consistently scramble out and find positions and reverse positions and get up. And you can tell that he has great wrestling. He probably has great jiu-jitsu, but he just doesn't want to be down there, and was able to consistently get up and fight. And I'm looking towards this guy for the future to see like what he's doing. We're gonna have to watch him, right? Movsar Evloev. Trust me, we're going to know him name soon. Incredible fighter. The only other thing that really stood out that night was Francisco Trinaldo and his knockout of Jai Herbert, and the fact that he knocked him out with one punch, and Herb Dean, I guess his angle or whatever, didn't really see it, and it created a controversy with Dan Hardy, as a commentator, cussing off the referee. And I mean, Herbert is Dan's brethren. He's one of his training partners. And so to see him get knocked out and then be, consistently pounded after that on the ground, the referee, it was a late stoppage by the ref. Herb Dean is the standard. Herb Dean, referee of the year, like in years running consecutively, and usually makes the right calls, but he's still human, you know what I mean? And he messed up this time. Dan Hardy went after him, and it really, probably not appropriate, but you need some of that. You need somebody to be able to talk up, and I wish people could cuss the judges in that way too. But it was an emotional moment for Dan, and I think everybody understands. Listen, Herb doesn't usually mess up. He messed up this time. We can forgive him. Hopefully Herbert isn't too hurt and didn't suffer too much of a concussion from it. That's why this job is so important, the referee's job, and it's a difficult job just because it's almost like you can never get things right with people. You're going to get criticized no matter what you do. Early stoppage, late stoppage, it's always a thing. I don't know, losers never lose. It was just an incredible weekend of fights, and just being on Fight Island was incredible, for the last couple of weeks. So I'm happy that they did it. I'm happy we got to see a bunch of international fighters again, and I look forward to the next time we can do it. The next fight is going to be at Apex, and that's what's coming up this weekend. So it's a very exciting weekend for us Jamaicans, because you don't know, Randy Brown is on the card. We've spoken about this fight. Me and Randy spoke about the fight. I gave it a little breakdown. As we have it now, Vicente Luque is the huge favorite. Not huge. He's the betting favorite. Negative 175 to positive to 150. Okay, so Randy Brown with Vicente Luque. Incredible fight. I think it's going to be fireworks. Vicente is a very aggressive fighter. He's a lot shorter than Randy. Randy's 6'3", Vicente's 5'11", and Randy's more of a boxer than a kickboxer. Vicente's more of a Muay Thai fighter, and he's going to go for those calf kicks. He's going to be going for the calf kicks from Randy. I think Randy's going to have to use his push kicks and use those jabs and be on the wheels, man. Randy's going to be moving a lot, and I know that's what he plans to do anyway. I think it's very important that he uses that front teep to get to Vicente's stomach. Vicente stands very square because he's the Muay Thai striker, so he needs to consistently be going for those body shots. When you attack Vicente and get aggressive with him, he tends to cover up and wait for his moments. He's not a great. He doesn't utilize big, a lot of footwork in terms of really running from opponents. So he will stand there and get defensive, shell up, which leaves his body open. I think that's where Randy is going to really shine when he starts to go for that liver shot. And so mixing the combinations, going down low and up high, throwing those knees, that flying knee that Randy's got is going to come in handy. I think Randy can pull out that spinning back kick now. He says it's one of his favorite kicks to use in training. I think he can pull that out now and get a nice body shot KO. I think if he avoids, he's got to avoid those calf kicks. Randy does tend to stand a little wide and heavy just because of that boxing stance. I think he's going to have to stand a little taller. I think it would be great if Randy takes him down as well, because Randy does have the edge in the jiu-jitsu game. And so, I would definitely think Randy kind of has more tools in his arsenal to use. So I want to see that he utilizes those tools. I give the edge to Randy. Even though Vicente has beaten some really, really high class opponents, I think Randy can do it, because stars make fights, man, and he's wanted this fight for a while. So for this fight, and it's the Derek Brunson Edmund Shebazyan fight, and Edmund Shebazyan has been on a serious tear. He's coming off of the Contender Series. He's 11-0, and extremely aggressive striker. He's got great takedown defense. He's all rounded, and he's going against Derek Brunson, who is a blitz fighter. I personally am not a big fan of Derek. I think he looks sloppy as hell. But one thing that he does, man, he leads with that fist. He's so fast in the way that he comes forward, and he has really long arms as well. And I think it's hard for people to gauge really how quickly he covers distance. And he's been able to catch a lot of people, a lot of really good fighters. I mean, even former champions like Lyoto Machida, he's been able to catch people with that blitz. Much more experience. We're talking about 27-0. So 20 wins, 7 losses against 11 wins, no losses. And Edmund is that upcomer, that, young boy coming up. And Derek Brunson is in this fight, the old guard, the old veteran. They're about the same height. Shebazyan is an inch taller. Brunson is southpaw. Shebazyan is orthodox. They're looking pretty equal outside of that. Brunson's takedown defense is outstanding. He's at 100%, which is almost unheard of. Right? So we know that we don't expect for Shebazyan to take him down. Shebazyan's most significant win is Brad Tavares. He really hasn't faced anybody on the level of Derek Brunson. So, and I mean, Derek Brunson has beaten, like I said, some of the top guys. He now is on a 2-fight win streak, beating Theodore and Heinisch, 2 guys who are great fighters. I would have loved to see Shebazyan against those guys, but UFC likes to propel these guys forward. They're always looking for that young, bright, shining star who's undefeated to get them to the top. Matter of fact, if you look at all the champions right now, I think 2 2 losses is the highest it goes for the existing champions. We have a lot of undefeated and 1 loss, 2 losses. So, you know, that's where we're at right now. Those young superstars. And I know UFC is trying to make a superstar out of Edmund Shebazyan. So we'll see what happens. I honestly think Derek Brunson's going to take it, as much as I don't like Derek. But we'll see what happens. I think Derek will utilize his grappling, and we'll see how it goes. So the odds are in favor of Shebazyan. Shebazyan is the favorite. 275, negative 275 to 225. That's big, man. People really do like Shebazyan for this. I'm still going with Brunson. I still think Brunson's got it. So interestingly, Jennifer Meyer was supposed to fight someone else and who fell ill to COVID. And now we got Joanne Calderwood. And Jojo is, you know, I love Jojo. Muay Thai striker, but I think Jojo's got this. Jojo is the favorite at negative 175. Very short notice fight. And you don't know about these short notice fights. It's never easy when you're not preparing for a fight and you're not preparing for that person. But it's also very difficult for Jennifer Meyer to take on somebody like Jojo, who's got so much more experience. 14-4-0. So 14 wins, 14 losses. Sorry, 4 losses for Joe. 17 wins, 6 losses, and 1 draw for Jennifer. However, you have to consider where her career was spent. So most of those fights for Jennifer was in, you know, like Invicta and so on, not the UFC. Joanne Calderwood has much more experience in the UFC with higher caliber fighters. So it's different. That level of experience, it matters who you're fighting against. Okay? So I think Jojo's got this. Jojo has a little height on her. You know, 1 inch reach advantage. She's gonna wanna take Joanna down. Joanna has a higher striking accuracy and a striking rate. I think Jojo beats her standing, so I'm gonna give this to Jojo. Lando Venata, Bobby Green is gonna be a great fight. This is the second time they're fighting. They went to a draw before. I think it's gonna be fireworks. Bobby Green is way more experienced with 25 wins, 10 losses, 1 draw. Lando is an exciting striker who does exciting things in the cage, and is very aggressive, and had a great fight with Tony Ferguson, but then ended up getting submitted. But it's definitely the kind of fighter to go for his strikes and go for his shots and go for his moments, and really would have basically won that first fight between him and Bobby Green, but because of an illegal knee strike, the scores got a little skewed and they ended up in a draw. Bobby Green is also a great fighter and has fought incredible competition as well. Edson Barboza, all these guys he's been able to, you know, really stand with and also include his wrestling, and, you know, looks good. But I do have to give it over to Lando Venata. Kevin Holland, Trevin Giles. I have great interest in this fight because I've actually fought on a card with Trevin before, and he's former LFA champion, excellent fighter, very aggressive. He actually, on the card that we fought on, he actually beat a brethren of mine, fellow Jamaican. But nothing to be ashamed of, man. Trevin was on a tear before he got to the UFC. He was like 10-0. He was, like I said, LFA champion. Had great fights in LFA. Has beaten man like Brian Spann, one of those memorable fights. And, you know, I bring up Brian Spann because Brian is a big, tall, rangy guy. Taller than Kevin Holland. And that's one of the things that we have to look at. Is Kevin Holland's height 6'3" versus 6 foot? So he'll have a little bit of height. He has a big reach advantage, 81 inches as opposed to 74 inches. So that big reach advantage is something to look at, and he really uses that reach, right? And he uses his jab and he uses his range a lot in his striking. But like I said, Trevin is an aggressive striker who comes forward, he lunges forward with those strikes, and also has an excellent ground game. And I think this is where the edge really is in his ground game. I think Trevin is going to take Holland down. I do give the edge to Holland. Sorry, to Giles. Let's see what the odds say. The odds are huge in favor of Holland, but I think Giles' aggression, and I just think he has better striking. I think his ground game is better. I want to see him take him down and get the victory. But I think it's going to be an interesting fight, and I'm rooting for Giles. The problem, Giles. Other mentions that I'm gonna talk about is like Ray Borg is in the prelims. 13-5, fighting against Nate Maness. 11-1. Just based on Ray Borg's experience, especially on a very high level, I'm giving that one to Ray Borg. Ed Herman is here. That's an old veteran fighting another old veteran, Gerald Mearshkart. I think I don't know, man. Haven't seen Ed Herman in a little while. It'll be interesting to see how that fight pans out. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a great night of fights. Put in the comments who you got. I'm definitely looking forward to Randy Brown. Hey man, Jamaicans, this is the time. Get behind Randy Brown. Make sure you watch this fight. We gotta cheer for Randy Brown. Put it in your social media. Share it. Make sure everybody tunes in. And Randy the Rude Boy Brown, man. He needs all the support. We're going to see how he does against Vicente Luque. Randy, we got you. Big up yourself. And other than that, I think the only other thing I want to talk about is Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. Listen, yo, this is a big excitement because, I mean, Mike is an old boy now, man. 53. Coming into the thing. Looking fit. He's looking good. So Mike Tyson hasn't been fighting, and we know that. He's just started back training and looking great and getting everybody excited. Roy Jones Jr. has actually been active up until 2018. He still has an active boxing license, which is incredible. He moved up to cruiserweight and is living that cruiserweight life. But, you know, his last notable wins were back in 2017 was Bobby Gunn. And then he had, which is, it's funny because Bobby Gunn is a bare knuckle guy. But then you had Scott Simon. But he's been fighting. I mean, the last thing I remember him doing was an exhibition match where him basically ask anybody, he would pay anybody money an amateur who can step in there with him, and he beat up he knocked out an MMA fighter who stepped in there with him. And yeah, Roy Jones is still a badass, but he is in training, and it will be interesting to see what will happen between these two guys, because I don't believe that they can actually just do a sparring match, which is what the commission actually wants them to do. I think it's going to be hard for Mike Tyson to not go in for the kill, and I think Roy Jones is going to have to do what he can do to stay alive. It's going to be very interesting. Listen, Roy is one of the greatest to ever do it. If you knew Roy in his prime, well, here's the thing. Roy's entire fight style was based around his explosivity, his explosive nature. He would lunge in. Roy didn't really use a jab. He would use a jab the way he would use a hook the way people use jabs. And Roy would he had so much explosion with that forward blitz and that hook. If you remember Roy, Roy had these big biceps, and they were right up the top here, almost blended into his shoulder. And it was because of how explosive that hook was, man. Right? And he had no triceps. It was the funniest thing. No triceps and all biceps, which is, it's that hook. But and Mike Tyson, I mean, this is the only thing I was worried about when I saw this announcement was that it was an 8-round exhibition. Man, I don't like the fact that it's an 8 round exhibition because these guys are older, and the last thing we want to see is to see these legends looking slow and old in the ring. I don't know if Mike knows how to just spar for 8 rounds. Mike kind of only has one mode, which is just kill them. So we'll see how that has changed over the years. And his style too. Mike's style is very much, he's not a boxer, Mike is a puncher. Has the most incredible movement, head movement, and side pivots. And he's gonna want to get in, and especially with Roy, who's much taller and much rangier, he's gonna want to get in, work that body, work the uppercut, work the left hooks, and that overhand. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited about it. I think it's gonna get incredible viewership. Mike Tyson is one of the most beloved fighters just because of his very raw, true nature. And we want to see what happens. So, exciting things coming up. And boxing is something I want to talk about in general. Boxing is back now. It's been back. They've been having the boxing events with no crowd, just like how the UFC has been having them. And it's been an exciting time. So we can look forward to some of these big fights coming back in. And the zone is doing it big. Senicia Estrada just scored the fastest knockout in female boxing history. And I saw somebody saying that the quality of opponent wasn't that great or something. But when you look at the fluidity and variety in her combination, you can't take anything away from Senicia Estrada. She looked amazing. Wow. Wow.